Welcome to Mystery Miners Ghost Edition. I'm your host, Theo. Today we are going to be talking about the story of the Smiling Man. So, my spooky friends, sit back, relax, go grab a nice cup of tea, and let's ready to get scared. Emma and Zach were high school sweethearts. After graduation, they moved away from their small town life to pursue their dreams of being on Broadway in the big metropolitan city of New York. One night, Zach found himself tossing and turning with the sound of blaring sirens and the drunken chattering of neighbors upstairs. He couldn't sleep. Zach gently got out of bed and decided to go for a walk to clear his mind. He glanced at the clock beside his girlfriend, who was half drooling on her pillow. It was 2:22 a.m. Emma has always been a heavy sleeper. Not even a giant earthquake can wake up the love of his life. Zach loves to take short strolls in the middle of the night. It has become a routine for him on sleepless nights. When Zach opened his front door, a gush of freezing air welcomed him. He walked down the street around the block in his neighborhood for about half an hour. Surprisingly, there was no one out tonight. It was very unusual, and the streets were dead quiet. Zach checked the time on his phone. It was 3 a.m., and it was time to head back home. However, as soon as he put his phone away, he noticed footsteps slowly approaching him. Tap, tap, tap. At the far end of the street, on his side, he saw a silhouette of a man dancing. He was dancing weirdly. The dance movements were slow, but graceful, almost similar to a waltz. But with every dance movement he did, he came closer, almost like he was headed straight for Zach. The man was wearing a worn-out black tuxedo. He was very tall and skinny. When he came closer, Zach could make out his face. The man's red-shot eyes were wide open, practically bugging out of his eyes. His head was slightly tilted back, looking up at the night sky. But that was not what caught Zach's attention. It was his smile. The man's mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. The smile was so wide, the corner of his lips was cracked, and Zach could see there was a smudge of dried blood. Something was definitely off. The night air became colder, and Zach felt goosebumps all over his body. He decided he was overreacting. Zach decided to cross the street before the man danced any closer to him. Zach took his eyes off the man to cross the empty street. As soon as he reached the other side, Zach looked back over his shoulder, and he felt fear wash over his body. The man had stopped dancing and was standing with one foot in the street. He was facing Zach, but still looking up towards the night sky, with that same creepy, wide, blood-stained smile on his lips. Zach was disturbed by this. He started walking again, but this time, he kept his eyes on the man at all times. Zach just wanted to go home to Emma. Once Zach put about half a block between him and the man, he turned away for a second and looked back to where the man had been standing to find him gone. Zach zipped up his jacket and was ready to head home until he saw the man again. Now the man had crossed the street to where Zach was. He was now slightly crouched down like a cat in front of him. Zach could not tell for sure due to the distance and the shadows, but he was certain the man was facing him. Zach had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that the man had moved fast. Very, very fast. Zach was glued to the ground in fear. Then slowly, the man stood up from his crouching position, and he started moving very quickly towards Zach. He was also moving in super exaggerated tiptoe steps. as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone. When the man got close enough to Zack, he suddenly stopped again, still smiling his wide cartoon grin, looking to the sky. Zack finally mustered up the courage to confront him, and he asked the man, "What do you want?" The man did not react at all. He just stood there smiling, looking up at the night sky. Zack could have sworn that smile even got wider. Now there is flesh blood forming around the corner of the man's mouth. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the man turned around slowly and started dancing and walking away. Zack was not turning his back on him again, so he watched the man go until he was far enough to be almost out of Zack's sight. Just as Zack was about to turn away, the man stopped moving. Then Zack stared in horror as this distant shape of him grew larger and larger. The man was coming back for Zack's way, and this time he was sprinting towards him. Zack bolted down the street. His heart was beating out of his chest. Zack did not stop running until he made it back to his apartment. The chit-chats of his drunken neighbors were silent. It was now filled with the sounds of keys jingling as Zack tried to open his front door in a panic state. A few seconds went by, and Zack was now back in his cozy living room. He took off his jacket and went straight to the kitchen to grab some water. Zack was trying to calm himself down after what happened. Should he call the police? Would they even believe him? As soon as he was about to take another sip of water, he heard something tapping on the kitchen window. Zack turned to look at what was making that noise, and he let out a scream and dropped his glass of water, shattering all over the floor. The smiling man was back, his long, pale fingers slowly tapping on Zack's window, his bloodshot eyes still wide open and staring towards the sky. The Smiling Man is a short creepypasta written by L.S. Riley, originally published by him on Reddit's Let's Not Me forum in April of 2012 under the username blue_title. The Let's Not Me subreddit forum is a place for people to post real, frightening encounters they've had with strange people across the globe. It seemed like a freaky, isolated incident, but as it turns out, Ellis Riley was only one of many people who'd had terrifying encounters with the Smiling Man. He was just a person to finally give it a name. Thank you for watching today's episode of Mystery Miners Ghost Edition. Make sure you catch us next week for another scary story on MI Radio.